Hi, Mr. Rowe here. Welcome to my video on negative feedback in biology. This is mostly about hormones, but seeing as it's January and getting a little bit topical, and be going on a couple of diversions about dieting and the recently elected President Trump. First of all, to explain negative feedback, I'm going to use an example that most people are probably familiar with. What happens in any negative feedback cycle is any changes away from the normal are reversed to get back to normal conditions again. So given that this is January, the example I'm going to look at is yo-yo dieting. So to start off with, we've got the normal condition, which is being at the desired body mass. If we have a change away from the normal, for example Christmas coming along, or not really watching what you eat for a while, this can lead to an increased body mass where the jeans start getting a little bit tighter around the waistband for some reason. The solution to that, given that it's January, is usually more salads and hitting the gym. After a few weeks of doing that, hopefully the desired body mass gets back to normal. So what we're looking at is there's been a change away from the normal and you've taken some form of action to get back there, so this is negative feedback. Now if we look at the opposite situation, imagine you've got flu or you've got a stomach bug, you can't eat properly for a few days and you don't have much of an appetite. That's going to cause the body mass to drop again and you might get a little bit too skinny and not have much energy for moving around in day-to-day life. So the solution to that is to build yourself back up again, have slightly larger portions at mealtime, and the body mass is again going to go back to normal. So now we've got the full negative feedback cycle, and any change away from the normal conditions are counteracted by actions taken. The next example we're going to look at is thermoregulation, which is the control of internal body temperature. This is part of homeostasis, which is the wider field of controlling internal body conditions. So again, we start off with normal. Normal body temperature in humans is around 37 to 37.5 degrees. If there's very hot weather or you're exercising a lot, then that body temperature is going to start to increase as heat builds up. The scientific word for this increased body temperature is hypothermia. If the body temperature keeps getting higher, then you're going to have problems. So the body takes action to reduce it back down to the normal level. The kind of things it does is it makes you sweat, which then evaporates, carrying away the heat energy, and you have vasodilation, where the blood vessels on the surface of your skin get wider to try to radiate a bit more heat. And with all of these things, you get back to normal body temperature. If the reverse happens and you're stuck out in the cold, you're not wearing enough clothes, or if you maybe get very wet, body temperature is going to go down. When it gets down to dangerous levels, that's called hypothermia, which most people have heard of. So to restore it back to normal, the body does a couple of things. It starts shivering and your teeth start chattering. That's muscle movements which generate some more heat. And you also have vasoconstriction, which is where the blood vessels close to the surface of the skin get smaller and narrower, and that stops you radiating heat. So you can see again, this is a negative feedback cycle, because anytime there's a change away from the normal conditions, the body does something to reverse that and bring you back to normal. The next example we're going to look at is again part of homeostasis. It is control of an internal body condition. This one is osmoregulation, so that refers to the amount of water in the body and the water potential of fluids like blood plasma. So to begin with, you've got a normal volume of blood plasma, you're hydrated, haven't had too much drink, you haven't had too little to drink. If then you drink far too much water, what's going to happen is the water is going to be absorbed into the bloodstream and the plasma volume goes up. The way the body responds to that is you've got a gland called the hypothalamus, which is located in the brain, and that releases a hormone called ADH. What ADH does is it controls the amount of water reabsorbed by the kidneys, So in response to the increased plasma volume, you make less of the ADH, which means there's more dilute urine because the kidneys reabsorb less water. So that gets you back to where you were to start with, having a normal plasma volume. Now, if you're stuck out in very hot weather, you don't have anything to drink, or maybe you're doing intense exercise, you could have a decreased plasma volume. Again, the body needs to correct that before it gets to dangerous levels. So the hypothalamus starts producing more ADH. That means the kidneys reabsorb more water, and the urine you produce is a lot darker and more concentrated. The reason that you still produce urine is you still need to get rid of waste products, but it being more concentrated means you lose less water at the same time. So far, everything we've looked at is to do with homeostasis and control of internal body conditions. This is another example of negative feedback in biology, but this one is on a whole planet level rather than individual organisms. So, talking about the planet as a whole, over the last few million years, every time that oxygen levels have got too high, there's been more forest fires. This corrects it back to the normal level because it removes lots of the oxygen, and it also removes some of the plants which are making the excessive oxygen in photosynthesis. This removes the extra carbon dioxide and it starts building up the oxygen levels. So some of you may be watching this and thinking, well, that's great, it's a solution to global warming. We might be burning fossil fuels and making carbon dioxide, but that just means more plants are going to grow and it will mop up all the extra CO2, and there won't be a problem in the long term with global warming. That's superficially a very nice idea, and it's been seized upon by some people who are very close to that man there, leading him to make statements a little bit like this. Unfortunately, though, that isn't actually true. Although under normal circumstances it does take action to return gas levels to normal, what that doesn't take account of is the amount of fossil fuels that we burn and the amount of deforestation which is happening with plants being killed and cut down. What can happen with any negative feedback cycle is it can just become overwhelmed if one of the stimuli is just too great. So just like if you're stuck out on the coldest night of the year not wearing any clothes, then no amount of shivering is going to correct hypothermia. And if you don't drink any water during a marathon, you're probably going to go down with a problem because of the insufficient plasma volume. Exactly the same thing is now happening on a planetary level. Or maybe the whole thing is a hoax dreamt up by the Chinese to damage the American economy. But if it is some kind of practical joke, it seems a little strange that the Chinese are actually signing up to efforts to reduce climate change emissions themselves. Thanks for watching, and please join me again next time.